Hi everyone, Al Iverson here from Spam Resource. Today I'm going to talk about the new Gmail and Yahoo Mail sender requirements coming this year, 2024. Before we get started, who am I? I'm Al Iverson. I publish the Spam Resource blog. I've been working in email technology and deliverability for 25 plus years. I've been blogging at Spam Resource for more than 20 years. Deliverability best practices, how to address inbox issues, blocking issues, block lists, and spam folder placement. That is exactly what I do, and that's what I'm going to walk you through today. What's coming up at Yahoo and Gmail and what you need to know about it to make sure you're in full compliance with their new sender requirements. Here's what we're going to go through in some detail today, so feel free to keep up with me along the way, and you don't have to take notes, though. I'm going to have links to all of the different things that I link to below. You'll be able to download a copy of this deck as well, so you should have everything in here right at your fingertips when you need it in the future. Let's get started. All right, the high level with these requirements. There's asterisks and what ifs on a couple of these, like whether or not you send enough mail. Some of the requirements are for people sending more than 5,000 messages a day, but ultimately it's best to comply overall because if you're a newsletter sender or a marketing sender, if you're not sending 5,000 messages a day today, you certainly hope to in the future, and you want to be in compliance ahead of that. And so if you get on the right foot forward with all of these best practices and technical settings that you implement, you're set up for deliverability success along the way. So that you'll get value out of these even before you hit that 5,000 recipients a day threshold. So those requirements are that you must authenticate your mail. That means sender policy framework, DKIM, domain keys, identified mail, email authentication. There's a setting called DMARC that you need to publish in DNS for your domain. Talk more about that and what to do about that. You must have alignment, which means that your authentication settings match your from domain, your email address's domain address on the from field of your emails. We'll talk about that. Make sure you're making it easy to unsubscribe. We'll talk about which bit of that is really your responsibility versus that is responsible, something your platform is responsible for. And then keeping spam complaints low. These new requirements will have thresholds over which if you get too many complaints, you're likely to get blocked. And then compliance. What happens when you don't comply, and how's that going to work, and when is that going to come into play? Ultimately, mail's not going to get delivered if you're not complying with these new requirements. That is the goal here, is for Yahoo and Gmail to allow through more wanted mail and reject, not allow through mail that people don't want, that Yahoo and Gmail believe people don't want. And these are one of the sets of measures they're going to use to decide good mail versus bad mail. Now, keeping in mind that compliance with these requirements is not a guarantee that mail is going to get delivered. You still have to be sending wanted mail along the way. Authentication, that's where it starts here, and those are the technical settings for your domain with sender policy framework, domain keys, identified mail, and then DMARC is sort of a setting on top of all of those. Domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. Basically what DMARC is a setting to tell mailbox providers what to do when mail purports to be from your domain, but it fails authentication checks. Basically, it's an anti-spoofing or anti-phishing measure, but to get it right, you've got to make sure all of your mail authenticates properly. And that's some of the steps we're going to go through here today. So we're talking about DKIM and SPF first. I'm going to start with DKIM here. And basically for any of these, what you want to do is start with the Google search for DKIM configuration for whatever platform you're sending mail from. For Gmail, for Microsoft 365, for MailChimp, for Constant Contact or Aweber, any of those platforms you send mail through, you're going to need to set up, configure DKIM authentication properly connected to those platforms to make sure that you pass those authentication checks. With DKIM, you can do this pretty easily. Here's an example from Aweber. You go into their dashboard. I'm a user of Aweber, so I went in there and I configured my spam resource domain so that I have DKIM set up properly so that when I send mail at spamresource.com from Aweber, it properly authenticates with DKIM. And that's how I did that. I go into my account and click on domains, click on view DNS records to tell me what to copy and paste. tells me to take this stuff and put it in my DNS settings in my domain. That's what I do next here. I'll show you that. My domains are registered through hover.com, so I went there. You do this through GoDaddy or whatever DNS or domain registrar you use. I go in my settings for my domain. I go add a record. I follow the instructions on that prior page from Aweber, right? It says copy this bit into the host name field, copy this bit into the target name, make sure it's a CNAME, and do that for all three of those records. And that's what I've done there, right about the middle of the screen. You can see Aweber key A, Aweber key B, and Aweber key C. So it's just a simple, a little bit of a copy and paste, just making sure you're putting it in the right field, and that's all there is to it. You're going to want to repeat these steps for every different place you send mail from. It's important that you can have multiple DKIMs set up. There's no sort of limitation on only having DKIM set up for one provider to send from. And make sure you put all of the DNS records in place that are recommended by a provider for DKIM. Like you see, Aweber there had 3. And that gives them some flexibility, some opportunity for failover or changing out settings in case there's some technical issue or platform issue or reputation issue down the line. Now, those providers, whether that be Google or Constant Contact or Microsoft or Aweber, some of them use a CNAME. They'll tell you to put in a CNAME record, or some of them will give you a text record to tell you to copy and paste this bit of text in. It doesn't really matter which way they do it. Any of those methods are fine. Follow the instructions that the provider gives you. And when you test this later, make sure you look for the DKIM signature specific for your domain. A DKIM signature is tied to a domain. So in that prior example, I was setting up a DKIM signature for spamresource.com. That means then that any mail that I send from Aweber is going to have that DKIM signature, and it's going to be specific to spamresource.com. Now, Aweber, like a lot of other platforms out there, adds additional DKIM signatures for their own tracking and compliance and deliverability reasons. So you want to make sure when you're trying to decode the results, when you're looking at headers, and I'll show you an example of that a little bit down the road here. When you're looking at those headers, make sure you're looking for the one that's specific to your domain. So you don't want to just assume that you have DKIM in place because there is some random DKIM signature in your email message. That DKIM signature might not be the one for your domain. It could be a default one that platform set up. So make sure you're looking. After you set up DKIM for your domain, make sure you look at the headers or do a test and make sure that there's a DKIM signature in place specifically for your domain. Now let's talk about Sender Policy Framework. This is a simple text record that goes into DNS at the top level of a domain. There's an example of it for people that if you only send email through Gmail, through Google Workspace, it might look like that. That include spfgoogle.com. Find your platform instructions online, just like with DKIM. Each of these platforms is going to have directions on how to configure that, whether that be Gmail, Microsoft. I put Proton Mail as an example of another custom domain hoster that sets you up to authenticate emails properly. This is more focused on your one-to-one email platform, like where you personally compose and send emails from, like Gmail or Microsoft. Now, you probably don't have to configure an SPF record for your ESP or newsletter sending platform. And there's a link to an article from Aweber that explains why. A lot of cases, the sending platform will configure the SPF stuff for you. It's based on a hidden header called the return path header or envelope sender, and that's often the ESP's domain, so they're most likely to be the responsible party for that in that instance, so you might not have to do anything there. And again, I'll have links for you to all of these different places below the recording here. So scroll down, you should be able to find that Probably Not article that explains how that works. Be sure to check. Some platforms are different, and I'll show you. You're going to know how to be able to test it. I'll show you how to test it at the end of this. One thing to keep in mind, this is some sort of nerd level stuff with SPF, but I do want to remind folks that you only have one SPF record for a particular level for a domain. So at the top level of the domain, you're only going to have one SPF record. And so it's not like DKIM where you just randomly, configure different DKIM DNS entries for different providers. With SPF at the top level of your domain, for my case, sending from spamresource.com, there's only going to be one SPF record for spamresource.com. And so that means if you start to get fancy here and have to configure that SPF record to support multiple providers, you have to copy and paste records together, combine them into one. Here's an example of that. Say you're sending from the Salesforce Marketing Cloud platform I used to work for and am quite familiar with, and then you're also sending mail for that domain from Gmail, from Google Workspace. So you need to combine those into one. And so I take Gmail and see how that's combined into the final record below. Then I take in the Salesforce Marketing Cloud include and copied that in there below and put that all together into my final SPF record. So that's one record that combines what's in Gmail and Salesforce Marketing Cloud, both of their recommendations for SPF to cover both platforms. Now, be aware here that all and V equals SPF1, those are different types of mechanisms, as they're called. Make sure you only have one of them. You can only have one record and one V equals version mechanism, one all mechanism. And then that last bit, that all mechanism, if at all possible, unless you absolutely know what you're doing, do tilde all, not dash all, not question mark all. You don't want to interfere with DMARC reporting or making it harder to track spoofing and phishing. And dash all can do that. Question mark all is telling the world that I don't know if I trust my own SPF record. Fairly useless stuff, so you don't really want to do that. And again, this is all sort of nerd level stuff, but I just wanted to throw that out there in case you're wondering, how do I combine SPF records together, or what do I do when I have multiple platforms to support? Now let's talk about DMARC, domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. This is a domain level setting that tells mailbox providers what to do when mail from your domain fails authentication checks. So it's to block phishing and spoofing, ultimately. When you see mail, or Gmail or Yahoo sees mail coming into them that purports to be, for example, in my case, from spamresource.com, then if it doesn't actually turn out to be from spamresource.com, or Gmail or Yahoo can't prove that it did because it doesn't have the proper authentication in place that would prove that the mail is truly from me, from my domain, authorized by my domain, what do you do with it? You can do nothing, or you can reject it, or you can kind of split the difference and filter it more harshly, perhaps quarantining it. So those are all settings that you do with DMARC. That's the whole point of DMARC, is to tell the world what to do about mail that purports to be from me when it's not really from me, or you can't prove that it's from me. Now, you've got three options here. Now, there's an easy way out. We'll start with that. There's a better way, sort of a middle ground here that's more aligned with what Yahoo would like to see. And then there's really the best way to go, is to use a DMARC dual service and just sort of outsource that. There's free ones and there's paid ones, and I'll touch on some options there as well. So here's the absolute, just dead simple way to get started with DMARC. All you're going to do here is just publish a DNS record. And I've got a screenshot here for my personal domain that I open up in hover.com, where I purchase my domains from. So this is where I set DNS records for my domain. I just said create a new DNS record, type text, hostname _ DMARC. The content or value for that is very simple. It's V equals DMARC1, uppercase there, and then P equals none, and lowercase there, and add record. And that is it. That will take care of it. That's going to cover everything you need to cover to technically comply with the new Yahoo and Gmail requirements. Very simple stuff. It doesn't do a lot for you, though. It doesn't really protect your domain, nor does it give you reports about your domain. There's no way for you to get feedback to know when people are phishing or spoofing, or if you are accidentally sending mail that isn't authenticating properly. So that takes us to the potentially better way to do it, and that is add a reporting address. Now, again, we're looking at my personal domain, spamresource.com. I'm adding what's called an RUA value, the reporting value for aggregate reporting. And I'm saying send those reports just directly to me. Why am I adding this here? This is because Yahoo strongly recommends this. They really want to see this. Those reports are not going to do you a lot of value because they're formatted in a very technical manner. They're meant to be fed into some sort of tool or service to process them. But it's a starting point, and you can let those reports come in. You're not going to get a million of them. You're only going to get a few here and there unless something really goes wrong or bad. Um, and so you can wait until you start to get enough reports that you care. You want to dig deeper into what they are, and then you can sort of move on up to the next level there. But if you want to just sort of blindly check the box and say, I comply, Yahoo wants me to have a reporting address, then this is the way you can do that. Now that reporting address has to be an address at your domain. That's there's a for technical reasons. It gets more complicated if you want to send reports somewhere else. So if you're setting up a DMARC record for spamresource.com, the reporting address has to be some address at spamresource.com. That's the starting beginner level requirement. Now, when you get into other platforms and services, that's not true. There's certainly ways to do that. But when you're getting started here and you're just trying to check the box by plugging in an address here, you're not necessarily going to do anything with those reports right away. That'll take care of you. That's the way to go. But really, the best way to go is to use a DMARC service provider. There's a lot of them out there. There's Redshift, there's Easy DMARC, there's free ones like Postmark. Um, you can look up, just Google it for DMARC providers, and what's out there, what's free, and what the potential cost options are, and then follow whatever they give you as far as directions, what you want to put in there. Here's an example of Postmark. If I wanted to set up Postmark for my other domain, wombatmail.com, I go to Postmark and I say, hey, give me the DMARC record. I need to put in a place for that. It'll give me that text there in the dark box. That's what I'll copy and paste into my DNS record in hover.com for DMARC_DMARC.wombatmail.com. So that's how you do it. That's what that does here is it tells the world to send reports about disposition of your mail, looking for examples of mail passing or failing authentication, just aggregate data, meaning it's just counts, summaries, not PII, not personally identifiable information. It sends that data to Postmark. Postmark's going to put it together in some sort of report or dashboard or something like that for you to give you information and feedback on that over time. That's where the value in DMARC in the longer term comes from, actually monitoring, having a dashboard that can give you alerts based on changes in behavior observed relating to your domain. So that's really the long-term way that you should be going with DMARC, and that's what Yahoo and Gmail are ultimately pushing people for. There's a whole bunch of next level stuff you can do here too, like tell Yahoo and Gmail to reject mail if it pretends to be from you, but it doesn't authenticate properly. That's very valuable to stop phishing and spoofing. But again, it's expert technical level stuff. And if you're just a small newsletter sender or a small brand marketer, there's steps to go to get there. And so here's the starting point to get started easily. And testing, you want to make sure you've got this all set up properly. Did you get it right? And here's how to do that. There's multiple tools out there. This aboutmy.email website is a tool by Steve Atkins of Word to the Wise, which is great. It lets you send a message to a special address, and it'll give you a whole bunch of checks back to tell you, did you pass or fail, all these different tests for alignment and authentication and all this different stuff. But you can start by looking at stuff manually too. You can just send it to your own Gmail. Send a message from your send platform, whether that be Constant Contact or MailChimp or Aweber or whatever. Send a message from there to your Gmail account. Look at the headers, do view source or show original, and look at the stuff that Gmail pulls out of there at the top. Right, it puts that stuff where it says original message. It'll give you information on SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Did it pass? And does DKIM in particular match your from domain? Very, very useful stuff just from looking at things manually. Now, I warned you that we would talk a little bit about alignment and what that means. And here's how to make sure that you're passing alignment checks as measured by these different authentication mechanisms. Basically, what alignment means is that the domain in the authentication setting matches the domain in your from address. So DKIM it attaches a hidden signature, a cryptographic signature to a message. That signature connects to a specific domain name. DKIM alignment means that domain name matches your from address domain name. So in other words, if I'm sending mail as spamresource.com, my DKIM signature is for spamresource.com. You can see in that little bit of that original message bit from Gmail that says pass and it says spamresource.com. It matches spamresource.com in my from domain. So that tells me that I have DKIM alignment. That passes. Now there's another header called the return path or envelope sender, and that's where SPF comes from. It'll look at that too, and you can look at the headers deeper if you're trying to make sure that is both authenticating properly and aligning properly. I'll show you how to pull it out of the headers, but also one of those different online tools, the mail tester tools or about my email, they'll do that for you. They'll pull that out. Now, keep in mind that there's two different ways to consider alignment. There's an exact alignment and relaxed alignment. And that relaxed includes subdomains. So you can see here in my example, relaxed alignment is passing fine because I might have bounce.spamresource.com in my return path or bounce header, but spamresource.com in my from address. They're both part of spamresource.com. So they align. They match good enough for the purposes of relaxed alignment. Versus exact alignment, it has to be exact. It has to exactly match the same domain name, the same host name in both places. So DKIM alignment is really, really important here. And I touched on this before where some platforms add their own DKIM signatures. You want to make sure that yours is in the mix as well, because that's going to significantly govern your ability to get mail delivered to the inbox. And it's definitely one of the requirements, these new requirements from Yahoo and Gmail. Email headers. Now, if I was able to scroll down in Gmail from that original message results on the last screen, I'd have a whole bunch of headers like this just below that show received lines that trace messages passing between servers. But more importantly, it's got a whole bunch of authentication related stuff in here that's very, very useful for troubleshooting. Starting with that received SPF header. There you go. You can see that in this message that I received from 8sleep.com, you can see it says the return path, the domain of bounces, blah, 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 at send.k.8sleep.com, designates blah, 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 it passes. So it's telling me that the return path domain or sender address in here, the envelope sender, is a domain of send.k.8sleep.com. So there's where you can find that. There's a different header more explicitly down below it's going to say return path. It's exactly the same information. It's going to have that exact same return path address. Next up there, authentication results. Here is a whole bunch of troubleshooting info from Gmail. A little bit duplicative of the stuff above, right? Because it has the SPF info, but it also has the DKIM pass and fail info as well too. So that's important stuff. It also has DMARC, did DMARC pass as well. And it even tells you the from address there. So if you're trying to manually compare, like what aligns in here, right? You can see the header from in that second section is 8sleep.com. You can look at the SPF pass with the domain of send.k.8sleep.com. They're both part of 8sleep.com. That means that authentication, SPF authentication aligns based on relaxed alignment. Now, in that third box there, you've got the DKIM signature. It's got a whole bunch of just letters and numbers there. That's the bits of the cryptographic signature. You don't care about that. You're not meant to read that. Machines are meant to read that. But you can look at it here, and you're trying to see which domain is this signature actually for. I can see that right here in this D field. Sometimes it's an I field. Sometimes it's a D field. You look at it and it says D equals k.8sleep.com. So that tells you that's the domain name in this DKIM signature. So again, if you're trying to compare it to the from address, you know the header from is 8sleep.com. The domain key signature is k.8sleep.com. That passes alignment based on relaxed alignment. Now, in a perfect world, you'd want the DKIM signature to exactly match what's in your from address. But that's a problem for another day, another nerd problem, something else to talk about. At the end of the day, what really matters here is that they're passing authentication properly and everything aligns as good as it needs to be to get mail delivered right now today. Now, more requirements here, right? The easy unsub. This is one of those things where um, the responsibility is sort of split. It's not just you. It's up to the sending platform to be able to comply with this new one-click unsubscribe requirement. And most sending platforms are taking care of this. They've got about June. They've got until about June to comply if they don't comply with this. You can expect that that'll be taken care of. But also the part that falls to you is to make sure that your unsub link is clear and easily found in the email message, in the body of the email message. Don't hide it. Mailbox providers might not catch everything silly you might do, but they will catch some of it, and they will not be happy with you. And they will come down hard on those people who are obscuring the unsub link, making it hard to find or hard to see. It's potentially a legal violation in the US. You don't want that. So make it easy to unsubscribe. And that's also important because you need to keep spam complaints low. Yahoo and Google both say that if complaints regularly exceed 0.3%, you're going to get blocked. You're going to have trouble getting that mail delivered. They're not exactly telling us exactly how that's going to work. Gmail says they'll calculate it daily. Yahoo hasn't said that explicitly. Does that mean that you go over once and you're blocked forever? I doubt it. I think it's something where they're probably looking for people who regularly violate that requirement. And so what that means overall is you got to keep spam complaints low. You have to make sure that you are sending wanted mail. That is the key here. Even if your mail is totally legally compliant, if it gets a lot of complaints, it'll get you blocked. And that's a good transition to talk about how you're going to monitor for that. And that's where Google Postmaster Tools comes into play. Yahoo has a complaint feedback loop, CFL, that technically savvy users can sign up for, but it's really more of a platform thing, and users don't sign up for that. But the Google Postmaster Tools, though, that you definitely should go sign up for. Newsletter sender, marketing sender, brand marketer, whatever you're doing, your domain name, you sign that up for Postmaster Tools. You can monitor in this dashboard from Gmail to show what Gmail thinks of your sender reputation, what they see as far as complaint rates and so forth. Very valuable data to understand how good or bad you are as measured by Google. Compliance is coming. Now, when does it actually hit? And Gmail in particular has said that they have a gradual and progressive compliance plan where they're going to start off just blocking little teeny bits of mail and work their way up to blocking more and more mail that violates their new requirements. At first, it might start with just temporary deferrals or delays of mail before moving up, before becoming more broader in scope and percentages, and whether or not rejections will be temporary or permanent. You don't want to find out what level you have to get to get permanent rejections. That's not a good thing. So it's really important that you're doing the right thing right out of the gate. These were already best practices, especially the email authentication stuff with DKIM. You really needed that anyway to successfully get to the inbox over time. So hopefully you have some of this stuff in place already, and maybe the DMARC record is the last little bit you've got to get into place. For the other bits, DMARC record, Yahoo's going to be looking for that in June. Both Gmail and Yahoo are looking for that easy unsubscribe support, that one-click unsub support in June. And Yahoo's saying that you should be authenticating with both SPF and DKIM at Yahoo. That's effectively a best practice already. So you shouldn't be sending mail that fails authentication checks. So that's in theory. Hopefully you're not going to run into these, but when are they going to really matter most? And that's going to start in June. Want to learn more about this stuff? Here are links to all of it. The announcement from Gmail, the requirements announcement from Yahoo, a recent update from Yahoo's Senders Hub, where they got a whole bunch of best practice information for people sending mail to Yahoo subscribers. Gmail's got their compliance timeline as part of their email sender guidelines FAQ, and there's a whole documentation section on the Google website for email sender guidelines. I'll have that all linked below, so you don't have to type in these links from the short links here. But it's important, it's good reading, and it's a good thing to bookmark and check periodically because they have made a few changes over time to different things as far as the timeline or the specifics of complaint rates or what else they might be checking exactly. So it's important to keep an eye out to see if this evolves over time. Don't forget also to check spamresource.com. That's my blog. I'll certainly share anything else I can think of or run into with regard to these upcoming changes. And that is it for today. I hope that you found this valuable. Thank you very much for your time. Have a great rest of your day.